Wouldn't it be nice to be able to have deep expertise on how to get the most amount of eyeballs on your property as soon as it were listed, giving your clients maximum dollar, as well as giving you more listing opportunities inside of that neighborhood? Today, we're going to talk exactly about that. So stay with us for just a minute. All right, welcome back to the Think Bigger Real Estate Show. I'm your host, Justin Stoddard. Very excited to be here today with Michael Tich. He is the co-founder and chief marketing officer, I should say, of HomeRoom, which is a company that actually gives you the ability to, very similar to Airbnb, to rent out individual rooms inside of your home. So before I get to that topic, I'm going to be thinking about what that might do for property values. If all of a sudden you could be renting out individual rooms inside of a room. Excited to introduce him to you today. We're also going to talk about what I promised before, which is how to maximize the exposure of your properties using his deep expertise from Airbnb, where he worked prior, and now as a Forbes 30 under 30, where he now drives the growth of HomeRoom. Michael, it's such a pleasure to be with you today. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Justin.
Yeah.
Funny you mentioned the Forbes 30 under 30 thing. That's like the best, like number one piece of it, right? It's just do good PR. So be a good PR person at HomeRoom.
Yeah, right. Good point. I mean, so you started off when we first met not that long ago. You told me a story about a property that you acquired. That you went looking for one particular reason. Would you tell us that story? I think that's just a hilarious story that's very insightful for all the agents out there that may think that they're doing a good job marketing their own listings.
Yeah. So this was back maybe 4 years ago in San Jose. So I am a small time real estate investor, and buying in the Bay Area is incredibly difficult. So one thing we would do is just try to find places that don't look all that great or are marketed incredibly poorly. So it had just weird pictures. They refused to show us the granny unit of the house. And they also had an eclectic band in the backyard and people cooking in the front yard. And it was just I think there was only 3 offers, which for the Bay Area is abysmally low. So we ended up getting the place for a pretty good deal. So don't do that.
And what was your assessment as to what people who were coming to the house actually thought of that?
Oh yeah, I think they thought they were the tenants or something, and then somehow they thought that people were still living there. So then well, what family is going to buy this place? And they also told yeah, it was also there was some unpermitted issues in the back that we had figured, but it was way better. If they would have just told the truth about it, it would have been 50 times better, because we assumed it would have been way worse.
So yeah, moral of the story is sometimes the marketing efforts that we put out there actually backfire. People don't actually interpret the fact that you've got people making breakfast up in front and a band playing in the back. They're like, who would ever buy this? Who would ever want to rent this place? It's a zoo around here. Whereas the agent themselves are like, hey, this is a great way to get a lot of attention on the property. So talk.
I don't know, because it was weird, because the agent inside said he didn't know who they were. This is the owner that went behind the agent's back and did all this. So I mean, great client to have, right?
Right. So with that being said, obviously you spent time at Airbnb really building, helping to get a lot of attention on their properties, right? Looking for investors. So let's get into that first, because that's, I think, again, kind of our first topic here, which is how do we get a lot of eyeballs on a property quickly, right? So that, again, you, number one, get a higher price point for the sellers, number one. And then number two, you get to maximize the opportunity for other homes in the neighborhood to say, boy, that agent did a great job marketing. Maybe we should interview them. Maybe we should hire them. Right.
Yeah. I mean, I'm obviously not a real estate agent, although I did take the classes a few years ago for fun. So, but yeah, I do a lot of it when I was an Airbnb host for 7 years, right? I think just having really strong pictures, visuals, being really creative, right? All of our listings for HomeRoom, we have the full 3D tour with Matterport and everything else. That does a good job of just making sure people can see everything. In the Bay Area, it's a big thing to list under market price to really generate demand. I don't know if that works everywhere, but it's gotten a bit extreme here. We were visiting one house where we walked in, they were listing at $2 million, and they said they wanted $3.5. It's but that place was packed, right? There was at least 100 people there on the sign-in sheet. So it's it got a lot of demand. I think the idea is okay, when you're there, try to clarify some of that. But At Airbnb, we tried not to do that too much, right? Like we obviously had like the fees associated with it. People had the cleaning fees, but like having in that low nightly list price does get like people through the door and get more people seeing it. So um, it just then can hurt conversion rate after the fact. So it's like always good to try to like maintain a balance though.
So obviously, even though the home is going to sell quickly, we know that, right? Our
Yeah.
goal as an agent is not to just sell the home, because if that's your value proposition, homeowners are not going to buy it. They're probably going to sell it themselves.
Mhm.
So number one is to, how do I maximize the value on this? And you're saying, even if it may not seem sense to invest in professional photography, even if it may
Yeah.
not make sense to invest in Matterport because it's going to sell itself, what we're telling you is that it
Yeah.
matters, right? It matters to the
Oh
price.
yeah, I think especially if you're looking to get people to like start a bidding war over places like now, right? Like getting people to like it just a little bit more, I would imagine, has a pretty
Yeah.
high driver there. So
Well, and you get people who are able to make a decision without having to come see it, right? So the more people that you
exactly.
can say,
Mhm.
I'm comfortable enough with this house to even make an offer sight unseen per se, right?
Yeah.
Goes way up. And the more that you can teach them about the property without having to have them actually go physically walk through it, one, it makes your job a little bit easier, and that of your sellers. But number
Exactly.
two,
Yeah. Like, a lot of our bio partners now, like, will buy places remotely. So, like, a lot just having those type of things are kind of a necessity, right? Because, like, a lot of times what we'll do is like we'll like work with them to like basically film it for them or something while the house is still on market to like make sure they have like a decent indication. Okay, this is like a good place to buy, or like they'll actually go under contract for it, and then we'll like send them all the details, and then it's like if they don't like it, well, then you're like back to square one. That's going to look terrible on you, right? So it's like making sure that's there ahead of time. Like it's just going to make a lot of people like they're not going to less likely to lowball you. Basically, I would think.
let's talk about from an ad standpoint. Do you
Yeah.
recommend, or let's say that you were licensed, right? Again, having your
Mhm.
deep knowledge in
Yeah.
marketing and advertising,
Yeah.
would you place ads, even though you know it's going to sell? Like, enough people are going to see it, hit the MLS.
Well, I think a lot of part of those ads for personal real estate agents are probably going to generate you potential more leads too, right? One thing I think we noticed at Airbnb is like what specifically you advertise for isn't always what you get, right? So you put a house up at Airbnb, for instance, when like we send it out via ads, about 90% of those users would end up converting on like a different house, which is kind of interesting of like getting those people into your network, like maybe they'd be a good buyer for you or something like that, right? Of like, um, using that house as like an intro to your connection, I think would probably make a lot of sense. Like that's what I would do if I was a real estate agent, right? Like running a lot of CPA based ads on both Facebook, probably less LinkedIn. LinkedIn's going to be hard to find people looking to buy houses, but like Facebook's pretty good, right? Because you can get very localized and say like, I want people looking in this area or in this area, and like try to find them that way. And like, yeah, I know for like when we try to find tenants, we use a lot of other sites, right? We're like we are very diverse. But like for finding investors, we can get pretty good on just like the Facebook and LinkedIn side.
Is there some sort of indicator? And I know this number is variable based upon a lot of different factors, but if you were advertising one home, is there a certain amount of money that you would dedicate to advertising a particular property?
Yeah, so the way I like to handle this is think of it more in terms of like, okay, what is the value you're getting out of it, right? So like obviously that's going to be based on like what your commission rates are, where you are like in parts of the country, right? Is your house selling for more? But if the idea is like, okay, like your LTV on a particular transaction is like $10,000, right? Like, but you have like a 1% conversion rate to there from like lead to buying a house.
Yeah.
Like you theoretically should be able to spend at least 50 hours just to get those leads in and still maintain like a 2x ratio there. So one good thing about Facebook ads is you can set like, okay, I want to hit a target cost per additional meeting or those two type of things. So say, okay, I want to spend $50 per meeting on Facebook, have all my creatives, do really broad with it, and then take all those meetings, right? And then eventually hopefully convert it down the line. So yeah.
So I love that. Let's slow it down a little bit for those that may be less familiar with Facebook advertising, if you don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so go back and walk us through as if you were walking us through Ads Manager, right? Where you'd go in and let's say you have a particular, let's say that another listing, right, which is maybe your ultimate goal, is going to be worth about $10,000 to you. Okay, so if you sell this home and does a good job, and you can take those marketing chops and you can go sit down with another seller in the neighborhood and you could say, hey, I was able to get my clients 5% higher than any other offer in the area because of my specific advertising knowledge of their property. I can do the same for you. And they say, hey, look, we're kind of ho-hum about about the real estate agent we were going to use. The fact that you can get us 5% more essentially washes out your fee or a good part of it. So that makes sense to us. So again, let's say that the end goal is to pick up another $10,000 commission off another listing in that neighborhood, right? Now, walk us through the numbers and specifically what we would be doing inside of Facebook Ads Manager if we had a particular, if we were marketing a particular home, hoping to also grab the attention of other potential sellers.
Yeah, for sure. So the way I kind of handle it is kind of like this 4-step process, right? So I think one is you kind of want to optimize as far down in that process as possible, right? So you'll have like, if that is like an initial meeting that happens in that first session, like optimize towards that, right? So have some type of website where you collect these meetings, a Calendly link, right? Relatively quickly to add a like paid Facebook pixel to there and say, okay, I want to optimize towards this event. Go into Facebook, just make a lot of different creatives, right? So just one thing I noticed with Facebook is like I have a hard time predicting what's going to convert. I thought at HomeRoom it'd be like a lot of stuff on like just random clickbaity stuff of like, oh, sell your house here. A lot of actually what works is just showing people numbers, right? So just showing people like some not very pretty charts of like, okay, like what this is like what our historical cap rate are, and giving them details of like what is the amount you can rent per room and kind of like a bunch of other stuff, like some fairly detailed charts for like a social media site, but like it actually that works pretty well. So
very good.
So yeah, basically we do that. We make all those different types of creatives. In terms of what audiences, like you would want to pick at people located like relatively close to you. And then you can also like add in maybe interest targeting, right? So people that are like interested in real estate or those type of things. Or like if you already have a customer base, do like a lookalike audience based on that. I don't know, like we'll use data from your brokerage or something like that. And then just, okay, roughly what your cost per meeting should be, right, at $50. So we either set that directly with bidding or just started with auto bid and slowly move into more of a like, okay, I want to spend $50 per listing and go from there.
Okay.
Yeah. And then like step 4 is just like keep killing off what's not working and launch new things. And then just try to keep everything as dynamic as possible, right? So if you're like telling Facebook to do something, it'll almost always like do that. But you always want to make it say, okay, like give me as much of what I actually want. And like you have all the liberty of what exactly you do to get that, right? So whether or not that's like moving around the ad formats and moving to Instagram or moving to like WhatsApp ads, right? You kind of let Facebook handle all that automatically, and mostly focus on like giving it new creatives, giving it new messaging and those type of things, and then just taking the meetings.
Okay, so here's a takeaway for everybody listening. Again, my crowd typically tends to be people who want to work by referral, right? Now you might be saying, Justin, this isn't really hitting home because this is more about driving ads. Here's what I want you to do is to go back and re-listen to what Michael just said there. He gave 4 steps that you can take and you can utilize as content inside of your newsletters that you're sending out to people when you're having conversations with your sphere, with people that are in your referral network, when you're talking to upstream referral partners, those that follow me and have read my book know what I'm talking about. And you can say, look, I get my clients more money by following these 4 steps. Like the reality is the people who you're talking to, it's going to go way over their head. And then you can get some expert help to help you actually execute on that. Unless maybe you're already pretty knowledgeable when it comes to Facebook, you can take what Michael just said and you can go implement that. Okay. But again, the key is we're looking for ways to differentiate ourselves. Even though we have the relationship, I'm telling you folks, that is not always enough. We need to have not only the relationship, we also need to have superior value, because people will go with the relationship for so long, but at some point, if they see superior value, they're going to leave towards that, especially if that superior value is quantifiable in dollars and cents. And that's exactly what we're doing, is that we're grabbing market share, we're securing our own market share by having the relationship, but solidifying that relationship with actual quantifiable value. And what Michael just gave us there is gold. Michael, I want to move to our next topic now, which is this. Obviously, your company, HomeRoom, is an app that gives people the ability to rent out a room inside of a home that they own, right? And gives you the ability to increase essentially the revenue coming in on a particular property. What are you seeing this do for homes that are, from an investor standpoint, for property values, right? Now you're able to you obviously bring in kind of higher rents. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so what normally we'll do is we'll take like a 4-bedroom house, add in 2 extra bedrooms, right? So now we have sort of a 6-bedroom house, and then we can help rent that out on our platform, right? So a lot of us will work with partners, many of who are real estate agents, right? And like, oh, I like I feel like I can make a lot more money, right? Instead of like renting this like one small family, I rented to 6 individual people, right? So we end up saving the tenants about 50% on rent, and we'll make about 50% more in terms of the rental return. So generally that also helps us back into, okay, we're willing to basically pay a bit more over market to be getting into some of these competitive areas because we know we can make more on the back end. So
50% higher rents is roughly what people can expect to see when they partition the home up into rooms, as opposed to renting the whole home as is.
Generally, yeah. Assuming you add in extra bedrooms and everything and like make it a little more, it can be higher, right? So if we take a 3-bedroom and like there's a lot of extra square footage that's not being used currently, we could turn it into a 6-bedroom and you might be able to like theoretically double it, right? But like it's very property dependent, which is why like we have a fairly large sales team that we go through and identify all the properties which would actually make sense. Only about 10% of like single family homes really make sense to do this with, just because like you need extra square footage, you need to be able to add in extra bedrooms, and like we need to be able to find the tenants quickly. So,
this sharing economy has taken one further step thanks to the innovation of what you're doing, and there's no doubt that people in today's world want to be able to live where they want to live without having to be enslaved to work for 60 to 80 hours a week in order to pay for it. And I think what you've done here has really opened up the world to a lot more people, just like Airbnb did, right? Where you used to work. Now you're giving more people to live where they want to live at a more affordable price. It's really, really cool. And investors giving them the ability to obviously, have greater returns. Are there certain pitfalls that people should watch out for? Like, for example, I know with Airbnb, there's kind of HOA and kind of zoning restrictions. Do you find similar things when it comes to room sharing?
There is some legal restrictions. It very much depends city by city. So it's like Kansas City, Missouri has like 300 sub-cities in it. Each one is slightly different, right? So it's like we kind of have a lot of experience. We know which ones to avoid. We have like a very long list of like, okay, like these zip codes we don't go after because it's kind of a pain. Whereas like some of the other ones, it's pretty good, right? So that's why I would try to find an expert that understands like that local market. And understand some of the nuances there, because like we've hit some issues, but like it is less than 1% of the time we'll hit some legal roadblocks, and usually then it's a matter of like, okay, maybe we just rent this as a single family home and figure things out. But it is pretty rare.
Okay, super interesting. I love it. What else would you want people to know about HomeRoom? I think that there's some pretty cool stuff here. That's just again, as a professional real estate agent living in the knowledge economy, being aware of things like this. Again, to my people that are building referral-based businesses, right? You may not be investors, you may not be out looking to do this, but simply having a knowledge of this gives you more content to stay relevant in front of the people that you do know. Allows you to bring knowledge to upstream key referral partners that give you the ability to gain their confidence, trust.
For sure. Well, so we do have a referral program. If any agents out there have potential people that they want to buy. We work with both like family offices as well as like investment agents, as well as like some real estate agents we partner with. We also have real estate agents that have like gone on to raise funds, right, to help buy more properties with us. So if you have potential investors that might want to be able to get higher returns, feel free to send them my way and we can hook you up. I know you'll usually get like a kickback on some amount of like the follow-up rents too. So a good way to just like keep bringing in continual residual income for your business. So
I love it, Michael. Last question. Actually, I got 2 more questions. One is, how can people learn more about HomeRoom? Where would you send them?
So just go to livehomeroom.com/invest, or just the main page works as well. So livehomeroom.com.
Love it. Love it. All right, let's go to let's look now at my final question, which is this. You're a big thinker, right? You've done some really great things. Talk to me about what you do to continue to be a big thinker, what you do to continue to grow and expand your possibilities.
So I've been recently doing all these like random podcast things recently, so it's been kind of fun just to try to meet more people. I always try to do a lot more like random networking events. We're doing a lot of like the company's going through Y Combinator right now, and also a lot of that is like meeting new people, doing a lot more networking events, trying to build up connections. Got some cool books here. Been reading this like management book today. It's kind of a good one.
That's a classic.
It's I read it like 4 years ago, but like I had like a audio version of it. So now I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll read the physical version because another person recommended it. So it's
awesome. I love it. Leaders are learners, right? There's no doubt about it that if you're if you're leading other people, if you're leading movements, then you have to be learning, right? You can't lead people in a very fast evolving world without constantly improving and evolving yourself.
Yeah, I mean, without becoming a Ty Lopez ad, but yeah, it's good.
Right.
Good, yeah.
Good point. Michael, I want to thank you so much for your time and contribution to us and our audience today. Appreciate what you're doing. HomeRoom, be watching for it, folks. I think it's going to change the space and give both people on both sides of the equation the opportunity to do more and to have better lives. So
Sounds
again,
good, man. Thanks, Justin, so much for having me on. It was,
appreciate it. Thanks, everybody. And my final request of everyone here is go think bigger. Thanks, Michael, for helping us do that today.
Sounds good. I'll see you.